Hi, everyone. Welcome to XpoNorth Digital Short. I am so excited. We have a long-awaited interview today with Rebecca from Film City Futures, who are based in Glasgow. Welcome, Rebecca.
Hi there, Jessica. Thank you so much for having me.
It's so nice to see you on the screen. And can you tell us a little bit about Film City Futures and who you are and what you do?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. So Film City Futures is the sister company to Film City Glasgow. So Film City Glasgow, I think probably a lot of people in the film and TV industry will probably know, was set up quite a while back now, probably in the noughties, by Tina Kelly and Gillian Berry, who's the head of Sigma Films, who made Outlaw King, probably best known for the big Netflix drama, and a ton of really great kind of indie films over the years. So they're a real kind of pillar of the kind of film community in Scotland, and I think they were just wanted to kind of come together and kind of create a hub for other film and TV practitioners. And it's called Film City, but it is film and TV. So the building itself has kind of like build and production space, but it also has lots of little offices where a lot of the film and TV companies, and it probably is more TV companies, have their space in there. And it's got like a little cafe, and there's a kind of like events in there and
What
so
an
on.
amazing community.
Yeah, do you know, it's such a great space. So I'm based in there. We have our office in there as well. And it's great because there's that kind of corridor culture, as they call it. You know, you kind of like getting a coffee and you kind of bump into other people. And I think that's kind of where a lot of kind of collaborations and kind of co-working
Yeah,
elements kind of
yeah.
come. It's just kind of like a little chat that you have in a corridor can lead to doing a co-production somewhere, or finding a really great editor for your film or something. So it's a really nice, it's a really, really nice community. And then Film City Futures is the kind of sister organization to that. And it's a charitable company. And it really exists to just add another layer to that. So it's really all about kind of training, growing the sector,
So sorry about that, Rebecca. We had technical difficulties. So tell me a little bit about how Film City Futures is the sister organization.
Yeah, sure. So Film City Futures was set up as really kind of like a charitable kind of sister branch to Film City Glasgow, in order to provide opportunities to people kind of entering the industry and progressing within the industry. So Film City kind of, and this was before my time, actually kind of run a project called Jump Cut Crew, which was all about kind of working with young people and providing that kind of like that first experience of picking up a camera and trying to make a story. And it was really successful, and it really kind of launched the careers of some great young people, and kind of won some awards, you know, kind of mid-shot films that were really great.
Oh,
And then since I came on board in 2017, which is ages ago now, we started running a project called Focus. And we've more recently taken on a new project called Short Circuit. So I'll tell you a little bit about those two. So Focus is a business development initiative aimed at kind of helping all the little small indies and the bigger indies that are kind of working in the Scottish film and TV sector just now. We cover the whole of Scotland. And Focus is delivered by Film City Futures in partnership with Scottish Documentary Institute.
wow.
Yeah, and it's funded. It was initially funded by Creative Scotland, as it was then, and Scottish Enterprise for the first 2 years. It was like kind of like a pilot project essentially, and the plan was that we would take on 20 companies and take them through like a 2-step process. So in this first stage, they would work with a business development advisor who kind of really looked at their company. It was all just kind of one-to-one, really bespoke, and it would look at their company and look at where they were trying to get to and what kind of advice and support they would need in order to kind of reach those ambitions that they'd set for themselves. And it would result in a document, which is like a business development strategy, which would outline all those next steps. So then in the second stage, they would come back to us and we would kind of look at that and discuss it with them and say, right, okay, you need support in like HR to restructure, or in like finance to kind of sort out your cash flow, or in kind of like development. And then we would bring in experts in those areas to work with those companies, again on a one-to-one basis, to kind of help them kind of make that kind of step up. And we picked, it was a competitive process, and we picked these 20 companies who were just like really inspiring, exciting companies that are really committed to growth. And they've really come a long way. So we've done quite a lot of evaluation around it, and we've done some ourselves, and we've had external evaluations as well.
For people who don't really know, the main focus for Film City Futures basically is growth and development. And then also kind of, I saw on the website, like access for all. So you said that there were training opportunities and things.
Yeah. So following on from that kind of two-step process of focus, we realized that we really wanted to make it a lot more open to other companies and to other people just kind of working in the sector or trying to get into the sector. So we've really kind of expanded out from that and introduced some different elements. So I think one of the most successful and kind of well-liked things that we've done of the last year is a boot camp. So it's kind of aimed at like brand new kind of companies within the first 3 years of operation. Quite often they're like a one-man band or a two-man band, by which I mean one woman band or two women band.
Just to clarify for folks who are watching, because there's so many contractors and freelancers and all different kinds of people who are registered at different levels, from sole traders to companies as artists. Is the boot camp just for registered companies? Can you be?
We do actually accept sole traders as well, and also on that initial pilot program as well. If there was somebody who was working technically as a sole trader, but who had those ambitions for growth and just kind of really needed that business expertise, then technically we would be able to kind of work with them, and the same through boot camp as well. But I don't think it's ever actually been the case that someone has been a sole trader, because I think by the time they come to us for business advice, then people generally already have a business. But quite sometimes the conversation starts kind of pre-business. It could be somebody, it could even be like an actor or a director or a casting agent who wants to set up a production company, and we will start talking to them at that early stage and help them think about whether or not they want to start a business as well, because it's not for everyone. We're not here to like go, yeah, businesses are brilliant, everyone should start their own production company, because it's some people when they maybe think that they want to, but then when actually you kind of start talking to them, actually what they really want to do is be a film director, or do something else, and maybe spending all that time.
Not to send a tidal wave of people to your doorstep, but can folks in the film and screen world get in touch with you anytime? Do they have to wait for these allotted programs to start?
Well, we have like a running program of events, which we used to do in a live situation, followed by glasses of wine usually, which is possibly the only part of it that we're really kind of missing from the live side. So we used to do them in Glasgow and in Edinburgh. But since lockdown, we've moved them all onto Zoom. So they all now run as webinars, which has been brilliant, because we work with people across the whole of Scotland, and like sometimes we've had some feedback from people who are kind of based outside of the Central Belt who maybe couldn't get along to the events but really wanted that information, and we were able to record the events and send them to them, but it's not the same as kind of participating live and being able to ask questions and so on. So now we run them all as webinars, which is great, and we have like a really kind of like diverse kind of network of people coming along to them from all over Scotland and all different backgrounds.
I think that's wonderful, because I mean my location is pretty remote where I am, and I wouldn't be able to get to them physically. So that's a wonderful kind of honoring your access for all. I think that's fantastic. So we have so little time, so I'm sorry to interrupt if I keep on pushing things forward, but I'm so curious about how COVID at the moment has maybe affected some of the initiatives that you guys are doing, because you built this beautiful idea of a city, so like a film city where a lot of stuff's happening in hallways. But then you also mentioned, your networking events can actually now broaden out to a wider audience who couldn't actually access them before. Has there been any other little changes like that you've noticed in the film?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely been some positives and some negatives. I think from the business side of things, actually lockdowns maybe allowed people to maybe step back and start thinking about their businesses and start being more, spend time on strategy, which is fantastic. And in terms of the kind of consultancy, most of our consultants are outside of Scotland, essentially. So we used to kind of pay, we used to spend money on kind of shipping people around and accessing people. I think it's made it a lot easier to get access to really, really kind of great experts, because it's less of their time as well, because they're not traveling. So I mean, that's been great. And great in terms of our delivery, obviously for the companies themselves, there's, they're facing like huge challenges. And, sometimes business development isn't something that they can focus on right now. They really have to kind of, that they've got issues that they need to deal with in terms of continuing their business. On the talent development side of things, that's been slightly different. So Short Circuit is a talent development scheme that we run, and that's really all about kind of like finding the most exciting, freshest new voices in film, and helping them to make their first short film, or to take that next step beyond that and start developing their first feature film. So with Sharp Shorts, we've actually taken on the challenge of helping 9 teams make a short film in real life this year. Which has been a challenge under COVID, obviously. So that has been where we've talked most about COVID, I think, is kind of been in the production side of these short films. And there's some great guidelines out there. So the British Film Council puts out a set of guidelines, and other organisations have as well, to help production crews kind of think about everything that they need to do in order to kind of keep their cast and crew safe on set. And it's huge. If you kind of think about a film shoot, then the number of things that you have to think about, if you look at the guidelines, it's a long list of things that you really need to think about. So we put some of our cast through training through Bet2 Vision, deliver really excellent training on COVID production, and train them up to a level where they can be a COVID supervisor on set. And yeah, we've managed to kind of get most of those kind of films through. There were one's shot and completed already, another 2 have shot, but they're all due to be completely kind of complete in the next few months, essentially.
Well done. That's amazing. Okay, so Rebecca, we'll put all the information for folks who are watching below, because there's so many incredible programs that you guys are running. I want people not to feel overwhelmed, but that directed to that you can go on the website, read a little bit more about this, and you can apply. Before we go, I do want to ask you about, you have such an interesting perspective into the Scottish film industry at the moment. I want to know where the growth is, if there's collaboration happening, and also maybe what's happening from an international point of view.
Yeah, in terms of kind of growth, it's actually a really exciting time for the film sector in Scotland just now. Obviously we work really closely with our kind of partners at Screen Scotland, who have a really good grasp of everything that's going on in the sector, and it just seems like there's so much going on. There's so many kind of productions kind of gearing up to take place in Scotland, both coming in from outside and by Scottish production companies. And working through Focus, we've really seen like a real growth of people setting up their own companies as well. I think to a certain extent, kind of lockdown has helped people kind of see opportunities, see things in a different way. And certainly you kind of mentioned the internationalism. There used to be a sense that in Scotland you were a little bit cut off from things, and people would maybe think, oh yeah, I'm at a disadvantage. But now there's a real leveler, isn't there, you know, just in terms of like speaking to like commissioners and kind of broadcasters and Netflix and streamers, the other streamers and so on, you know. It's as easy for someone in the Highlands to get a conversation with Netflix as it is for someone in the centre of London now. So it's an amazing opportunity. And I think the streamers themselves, kind of like Netflix and Amazon and so on, are really opening up. It used to be a lot more difficult to kind of like to break down that kind of barrier and can get that foot in the door, but there's such a desire for fresh content now from consumers, which is all thanks to us watching TV so much over lockdown, that they're really kind of setting up teams of people in the UK to try and find those kind of fresh, exciting voices. And I think there is always that sense that local stories with an international appeal are really attractive to the streamers. It sells really well on their platforms, which is great for, you know, people outside the Central Belt as well to think about.
Rebecca, thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate it. And as all XpoNorth shorts do, I want to end with a little bit of advice. So something that you've been told or learned along the way that you found incredibly helpful that you might even use on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, sure. One piece of advice that someone in the sector that I still work with actually years on told me very early days, which I thought was great advice, and I've really kind of lived by it, and I'm sure it's served me well, is to be nice to everybody. I think kind of like in this sector, people are really, really passionate about what they're doing, and sometimes, you know, people behave in ways that might seem unreasonable, or you don't understand where they're coming from. So and I think just really pertinent to the moment as well. You know, people are going through kind of quite difficult times a lot of the time. So I think it's just, one piece of advice would be, you know, take a step back. Don't be judgmental of people. Just be really nice to everybody, because people you don't know what is causing their behavior, and also you don't know how you are going to work with them again in the future. People are moving around all the time, so it might be you might want to work with them again.
Don't burn bridges and be nice. I think that's really a good note to end on, because you're wonderful and we're very happy to have you here. Thank you very much, Rebecca, for joining us.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm really looking forward to working more closely with all the XpoNorth followers.
Definitely. Thanks.